Вот так вот делали, просто чтобы выставлять. Ужас какой. Не самое, конечно, страшное в войне, но тоже мало приятного. А вы смотрите, здесь, значит, нужно нажать на кнопочки и услышать 3 передачи. Радиопередачи со Второй мировой войны. Это «Воспоминания ветеранов», какой-то суперинтендент, парк суперинтендент, отчет с сентября 1942 и NBC подкаст из Форт Mchenry в марте 1942 года. Первое.
August Larcher, fire duty, U.S. Coast Guard. Served at the U.S. Coast Guard station at Fort Mchenry from 1943 to 1944. My time at Fort Mchenry began in the winter of 1943, when I enlisted as an apprentice seaman, for which I was paid $21 a month. What I remember most about my time at Fort Mchenry was how peaceful and beautiful a setting it was. I'd look out over the harbor, and it seemed like the war didn't even exist. But of course, it was very much alive. I joined the U.S. Coast Guard because I wanted to serve my country, and because I always looked at them as doing something important. A typical day started with reveille, breakfast call, and then we'd jump on the trucks which took us to the piers where we stood guard duty. Men not on guard duty manned fireboats, cleaned buildings, or were mess cooks. While at Fort Mchenry, I was privileged to attend firefighting school where I learned advanced methods in fire prevention. After my training, I was stationed on Fire Beat in Baltimore Harbor. Fire was always a threat, so this training was critical. Many Navy and Coast Guardsmen of all ranks went through a very good firefighting and damage control school at the fort. I'm sure many of these men helped save their ship with the schooling they had learned at Fort Mchenry. In 1944, I was transferred from the fort to the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Apache, an icebreaker tug which was stationed at Pier 4 on Pratt Street in Baltimore. We did custom inspection work, checked buoys, and broke ice in water. On the anniversary of Francis Scott Key's writing of the Star-Spangled Banner, we mock attacked the fort with flare guns, and they fired back. I will always remember that. It's a special place, as this is where our nation's national anthem was inspired. I'm proud of the work I did at the fort and the people of Baltimore. They always made me feel welcomed.
Peter Mozzo, Seaman First Class, U.S. Coast Guard. I was stationed at Fort Mchenry for 2 years, from 1942 to 1944, and I have quite a few memories of my time there. A typical day began with morning roll call, and all of the men would form up in the quadrangle. After roll call, I would change into the clothes I wore when performing guard duty. This included a navy blue turtleneck sweater, chambray shirt, and a pea coat and gloves in the winter. I was also armed with a .38 and a club. Port security was an important duty for the Coast Guardsmen, like me, who were stationed at Fort Mchenry. I spent 4 hours on, 4 hours off on a typical daily shift. We did guard duty around the barracks, on the fort grounds, and aboard Spanish and Portuguese ships that were anchored in Baltimore Harbor. I remember boarding the ships from the dock. Once we boarded the ships, the foreign crews were checked out for sickness and diseases. I remember one night on a Portuguese ship, we had to keep many of the crew from going ashore because they had venereal disease. This was a common problem in those days. Sometimes in the winter, guard duty could be hazardous because ice made the docks and gangways very slippery. One very unfortunate incident involved one fellow who slipped off the frozen gangway and fell between the ship and the dock. He was crushed before anyone could save him. When I wasn't performing guard duty, I recall being subjected to personal inspection quite a lot. Many times, Commander Abel came around for personal inspection. He really kept me on my toes. There was a big inspection every week. We were divided into 3 groups. The orderly of the day made a point of the order, "Field strip the butts." This was in reference to cigarette butts, and as a sign of respect, we had to make sure that none could be seen. I would slit the butts and shake out the remainder of the tobacco. After that was done, I would then wad up the cigarette paper into a ball, put it in my pocket, and throw it away. There was always a lot of coming and going in the barracks. In 1943, a damaged British ship arrived and was being repaired. About 30 to 40 English sailors stayed in the same building as us and ate at the cafeteria. They visited the fort, too. Overall, the barracks contained as many as 1,500 men and was divided up into rooms with 10 men in each room. A few of the guardsmen were black. Not many, about 16. They slept in segregated rooms, but we would be integrated for duties and jobs during the day. On the weekends, we had entertainment in the cafeteria, which is now the Naval Reserve Center. I belonged to a dance band and played the clarinet on Saturday and Sunday nights. It was a lively base, 24/7. It was a very nice place to be stationed and a great experience.
Arnold Hank Edward Greenberg, U.S. Coast Guard. When I think back on my life at Fort Mchenry during the war, well, I recall Sundays the best. They were a fine mix of work and fun. Mornings were spent on guard duty, protecting the port and vessels. This often involved asking people not to take pictures of the shipyards, which was strictly forbidden. At the end of our day, our unit would march off the Coast Guard base, up Fort Street, through downtown, and back to Fort McHenry, where we would finish with a ceremonial close order drill. After that, me and the guys would play some touch football, wrestle, or other games. Just some good old fun that allowed us to act our age and helped us forget, for a moment, the seriousness of our situation. Other days of the week were busy and full of routine. I'd wake up at the break of dawn to the noise of ringing bells, rouse myself from a brief slumber, and scurry outside for morning calisthenics. This was followed by a march to the mess hall for breakfast. After changing my clothes 3 times in the morning, from dungarees to formal dress uniform, which we were required to wear while raising the American flag, I'd put on my work uniform and resume my daily duties. I spent the majority of my time standing watch on the piers around Fort McHenry and serving guard duty aboard foreign ships that were anchored in Baltimore Harbor. Security was done round the clock. Most of the ships we boarded were from Spain and Portugal, and for the most part, the crews of these ships weren't allowed ashore. I do recall that they made some great food, a very fine galley with plenty to eat and lots of hot coffee to go around. I also recall that the tugboat people were fighting amongst themselves, so I also did duty on tugs and kept peace. We had only billy clubs for security, but that was sufficient. I wasn't at Fort McHenry for very long before I was transferred to another post, but the time I spent there serving my country and the work that I did was memorable and important.
Второе.
Memorandum for the Director, October 8, 1942. Monthly report from Fort McHenry Park Superintendent James W. Rader to the Regional Director, Region 1. Acting Regional Director Johnston was in this area on September 26th in regard to the request of the U.S. Coast Guard to use 8.4 acres at Fort McHenry for recreation, drilling, and the construction of several temporary classroom buildings. Also pending is this approval of the service for the Coast Guard to use our U.S. Civil War powder magazine near the entrance to the monument grounds for the small arms rifle practice and classroom purposes. On September 12th, there was a local broadcast from 4 to 5 p.m. from Fort McHenry. The exercises were held at the Armistead Monument in commemoration of Defenders Day and featured the induction of 308 recruits into the 4 branches of the armed forces, as well as a campaign to sell war bonds. The speakers were Governor O'Connor of Maryland, Walter N. Ruth, State Administrator of the War Bonds Drive, Arthur P. Sewell, Curator of the Flag House of Baltimore, and A.C.C. Hill, a Special Assistant to Donald Nelson on the War Production Board. Lucy Monroe sang the Star-Spangled Banner, and Larry Adler, harmonic virtuoso, played Maryland, My Maryland. On September 14th, the 126th anniversary of the writing of the national anthem, there was a 15-minute dawn broadcast from the Star Fort of Fort McHenry National Monument and Historic Shrine, as Lucy Monroe sang the Star-Spangled Banner, accompanied by members of the Maryland State Guard Band. Brigadier General Dwight H. Moore, commander of the State Guard, spoke. The broadcast was carried over a national hookup. Lectures, guide service, and interpretive contacts. 3 guided tours of the monument were made during the month of September. One group consisted of 30 Central and South American Army officers who were brought here from Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland, by Colonel Hankins. Superintendent Rader took the group around and told the story of Fort McHenry through an interpreter. We believe these officers are receiving instruction at the arsenal. Increase or decrease in travel. The estimated number of visitors to the fort for the month of September was 31,213, as compared to 81,477 for September 1941. For the travel year October 1941 to September 1942, there was an estimated number of 397,595 visitors and 660,403 for the year before. Visitors. During the month, we had the following visitors. Ted Smith, formerly of Shenandoah National Park and now in the Army. Bruno Lazzari, formerly with Control and Accounts Section, National Park Service, Washington, D.C., and now with WPB, Mr. Aaron Hill, concessionaire. Memorandum for the Director, October 8, 1942. Monthly report from
August Larcher, fire duty, U.S. Coast Guard.
Короче, эта кнопка не
Served at the
работает.
U.S. Coast Guard Station at Fort McHenry from 1943 to 1944.
Интересно очень.
Fort McHenry began in the winter of 1943.
Идем в другую комнату. Хочу показать. Там радио будет играть, конечно. А видите, эта фотография сложена, видите, в несколько раз. Это люди, вот, которые там были. Там, где мы с вами ходили. Это та комната, которую мы пропустили, потому что я говорила, что здесь были люди. И это какие-то настоящие детали. Видите, первое. Фрагмент белой тарелки. Второе это от бутылки. Бутылка вина. Верхний фрагмент, 4. Каких-то типа тарелок, знаете, таких, которые на выставке. Так, это от чайника ручка. И последнее это от утюга фрагмент. Вот. Солдатов. Так. Части животных. Кнопка, пуговица солдата, какая-то фрагмент еще пуговицы, 4 какие-то фрагменты того, что они использовали в бытовой жизни, какой-то фрагмент ботинка, я не знаю, что это такое. Здесь. Так. Фрагмент. О, такой, блин. Блин, я думаю, почему она такая большая. Третья это пуговица, вот она. Первое это как раз вот это вот что-то. Археологи, кстати, мне женщина там сказала, продолжают откапывать что-то здесь периодически. Это Это настоящий вот этот кросс. Сейчас люди сюда идут, конечно. Здесь суть. А вот это огромный крест, это оригинальный подпорка для того, чтобы флаг не упал. То есть, видите, он здесь из двух состоит. Вот один из этих, конечный, по-моему, как я поняла, как раз используется для оригинального флага. Сейчас, конечно же, там, ну, по-другому. Там по-другому флаг стоит, но вот так вот его нашли. Долго не могли понять, где он. И долго откопали его в порте, так, где он? В Салли порт. Так вот. Так что вот он, настоящий, оригинальный. То, что было тогда. Чудеса. И самое прикольное, мне кажется, здесь, это то, что археологи до сих пор находят. Ну, здесь, смотрите, вот это от соды бутылка. Это бутылка от молока. Медицинская какая-то штука. Мелочь, в общем, 50 центов, да, это что это? Ингалятор, инсулятор, инсулин, не знаю для чего, это какая-то электрическая штука. Это вот, значит, buttons, тоже какая-то медицинская штука. Допустим, вот из нее даже не вынимали, видите, мусор, то есть он там так и остался, чтобы, не дай бог, не задеть, там, не сломать. Stoneware shield. Это вот для одежды. Горлышко бутылки какой-то. Не знаю, что такое tortoise shell. Какая-то часть от здания. Бутылки, фрагмент бутылки. Так, что еще здесь? Какая-то застежка для бокса. Смотрите, как это называется, хоршу? Подкова. От ножа какой-то фрагмент. Вот он. От бутылки рома. Мини-бол какой-то, даже не знаю, что это такое, не понимаю. Вот этот блайт. Спюр. От хаммера. Свиная часть. Тоже фрагменты. Подлог. Устрица. О, смотрите, британская монетка. Еще какой-то камень. Последняя комнатка. Видите, это столик для документов. Это для оружия. Я только недавно сообразила. Видите, написано Линкольн диктатор или герой. Как Форт изменился. Тоже кровать. Видите, печка посередине стоит. Столик. Это, видимо, тоже для оружия и для, каких-то хозяйственных приборов. Что-то наверху там есть. Не знаю, это, наверное, нельзя. Или можно. Надеюсь, можно. Видите, это, наверное, клетки для людей. Тюрьма. Так вот миленько. Время 2 часа дня. Вот я и заехала на полчасика сюда. И это я только выхожу из самого форта. То есть мне сейчас нужно будет еще пройти, не надо это снимать, блок охраны, короче, потом пройти в магазинчик, нужно еще посмотреть. И потом только ехать в Анаполис, в который я планировала приехать пару часов назад. Но я вообще ни о чем не жалею. Особенно учитывая, что я купила сейчас годовой абонемент на посещение парков и национальных всяких этих. Я прям чувствую, это далеко, мой не последний визит сюда в этом году. Ну, здесь мне 1,5 часа до дома, так что как бы в любой, даже после работы сюда можно приехать. Блин, это вообще кайф. И здесь, конечно, супер красиво. Соряночка сейчас течет немного больше, потому что мне надо родить камеру, а заряжать и использовать стабилизатор это невозможно. Везунчик. В общем, все, вон, смотрите, огромные жирнющие птицы. И я иду в магазин сувениров, чтобы прикупить что-то на память и потом уже прямиком в машину. Время 4:20, и я приехала в Анаполис, припарковалась. На самом деле вид, да, такой прям типичной американской глубинки.